The morning sun stretched across the neighborhood as children gathered at the corner for the school bus, laughter and chatter filling the crisp air. My 10-year-old daughter, Emily, stood quietly among them, clutching the straps of her pink backpack. She was shy, but warm-hearted, always polite to the other kids, and had grown to cherish this short walk to the bus stop every day. But that calm routine shattered when Karen, the self-proclaimed ruler of the HOA, appeared like a storm front. She marched down the sidewalk in oversized sunglasses, her tiny white dog yapping at her heels as if echoing her hostility. Without so much as a greeting, Karen zeroed in on Emily, her voice sharp enough to cut through the morning air. "Whose child are you?" she snapped, glaring as though my daughter were an intruder on private land. Emily blinked in surprise, stammering a timid reply, but Karen didn't give her the chance. "This stop is for residents only. I don't recognize you, so you don't belong here." The other children froze, their giggles fading to uneasy silence, while a couple of parents shifted uncomfortably on the sidewalk. No one dared to intervene. Emily's face flushed red, her small fingers tightening around her backpack straps as Karen's words grew louder. The entitled woman stepped closer, wagging her finger like a schoolteacher scolding a delinquent. "Do you hear me? I run this community. If you can't prove you live here, I'll have you removed. I don't care if you're 10 years old. Rules are rules." Her voice rang with arrogance, echoing off the houses, drawing attention from nearby porches where neighbors peered out with curiosity. Emily tried to explain, her voice trembling. "We live here, my dad," but Karen cut her off with a mocking laugh. "Your dad? Then where is he? Let me guess, sleeping in? Working somewhere outside this neighborhood? People think they can sneak in, use our amenities, ride our buses, and not pay dues. Not on my watch." She stood tall, arms crossed, convinced her imaginary authority gave her the right to humiliate a child in front of her peers. Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she whispered, "My dad is coming." Karen smirked, tilting her head with mock pity. "Oh, I can't wait to meet him. Maybe he'll explain why his daughter thinks she can trespass here. And trust me, if he doesn't like what I have to say, I'll be calling the police myself." The children looked back and forth between Emily and Karen, wide-eyed at the spectacle unfolding before them. Some of the parents whispered quietly, but none dared to step in. Karen thrived on that silence, mistaking their discomfort for agreement, her ego swelling as she stood in the spotlight of her own cruelty. But what she didn't know, what no one at that bus stop knew, was that I was already walking down the street, coffee in one hand, badge clipped to my belt under my jacket. I had heard enough from a distance to see the tears in my daughter's eyes and the smug grin on Karen's face. She had chosen the wrong child on the wrong morning, and most importantly, the wrong parent. Because while she thought she was threatening some powerless family, she was about to come face to face with the chief of police. By the time I reached the corner, the situation had turned into a spectacle. Parents who normally chatted about weather and school schedules now stood stiff and awkward, their eyes darting between Karen's raised voice and my daughter's frightened face. Emily spotted me first and broke from the crowd, rushing into my arms, her voice cracking as she whispered, "Daddy," she said, "I don't belong here." I kissed the top of her head, my jaw tightening as I glanced past her to the woman who had reduced my child to tears. Karen didn't back down when our eyes met. In fact, she stepped forward with the same arrogance she had wielded against Emily, chin lifted as if she were the gatekeeper of the neighborhood. "Sir, your daughter cannot wait here. This bus stop is for residents only, and I don't recognize her. You need to take her home immediately before I escalate this," she declared loudly, ensuring every parent and child could hear her. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. Escalate? She was lecturing the one man in town who could escalate with a single phone call. Still, I held my composure, tilting my jacket just enough for the polished badge clipped to my belt to glint in the morning light. "That won't be necessary," I said evenly, my voice carrying authority without needing to be raised. The parents closest to me stiffened, recognizing the badge before Karen did. For a brief moment, her eyes flickered to it, her smirk faltering, But arrogance is a hard habit to break. She doubled down. I don't care who you are. HOA rules are rules. I can call the police right now and have her removed from the stop. That was it. My patience, already thin from watching her berate my child, snapped like a twig. I stepped closer, my boots crunching on the sidewalk, lowering my voice so every word landed heavy. Ma'am, listen carefully. HOA guidelines don't override state law. Harassing a minor, intimidating her in public, and threatening to remove her from a lawful bus stop isn't just enforcing rules, it's a crime. My tone cut through the chilly air, and a hush fell over the parents who had been watching, relief flickering across their faces, as if they'd been waiting for someone to finally stand up to her. Karen blinked, her bravado faltering for the first time. That's ridiculous, she stammered. I was only trying to keep order. She doesn't look like she lives here. The words hung in the air, sour and telling, her prejudice laid bare. I narrowed my eyes, my hand resting lightly on Emily's shoulder, grounding her as I spoke. You made a mistake today. You chose to target a child, my child, and humiliate her in public. That's intimidation of a minor, punishable by law. And if you think your position as HOA president protects you, you're gravely mistaken. Because the police officer you wanted to call, you're already looking at him. And I don't just wear the badge, I run this department. Gasps rippled through the crowd, parents exchanging wide-eyed glances, kids whispering to each other in disbelief. Karen's face drained of color as the weight of my words settled on her. She stuttered, pointing weakly at Emily. I didn't mean save it. I said, cutting her off sharply. You've crossed the line. And in my town, no one gets away with threatening children. The sharp hiss of air brakes cut through the silence as the yellow school bus pulled up, its door creaking open while children inside pressed their faces to the windows, curious about the escalating drama on the sidewalk. Karen, still flustered, tried to regain her footing, waving her arms as though sheer volume could erase the humiliation of being called out. This is absurd, she shouted, her voice trembling now. I was only protecting the community. I didn't know she was your daughter. I didn't know you were the police chief. She stumbled over the words, her confidence collapsing like a poorly built wall under pressure. I didn't flinch. With one steady motion, I radioed dispatch. Unit 14, respond to my location. We have a harassment of a minor situation in progress. The words sent a ripple of shock through the onlookers. Parents who had been silent now whispered excitedly, realizing they were witnessing the downfall of a woman who had long bullied the neighborhood unchecked. Karen's eyes widened as a squad car siren grew louder, approaching fast, the flashing red and blue lights reflecting off the polished windows of nearby houses. Wait, you're not serious. You can't arrest me for this. I'm the HOA president, she cried, desperation creeping into her tone. Within minutes, two uniformed officers stepped out of the cruiser, their posture crisp as they approached. They gave me a respectful nod, addressing me with a firm, "Chief." Karen blinked, her jaw falling slack. The reality sank in. This wasn't just a warning. This was an arrest in front of everyone she thought she ruled over. I calmly explained the situation to the officers, keeping my voice measured so the children wouldn't feel frightened, but loud enough for every parent to hear. This woman verbally intimidated a minor, publicly humiliated her, and threatened to unlawfully remove her from a public bus stop. That qualifies as harassment of a minor under state statute. One officer stepped forward, his handcuffs already unclipped from his belt. "Ma'am, place your hands behind your back," he instructed. Karen recoiled, her little dog barking frantically at her feet. "No, you can't do this. I was just doing my job," she wailed, her voice cracking as her authority dissolved into panic. The officer didn't hesitate. He gently but firmly turned her around, clicking the cuffs into place with a metallic snap that silenced even the most skeptical bystanders. Gasps spread through the crowd. Children whispered to each other in awe, while parents exchanged knowing looks, some even smirking at the long overdue comeuppance of the woman who had tormented them with fines, notices, and petty power plays for years. Karen, now red-faced and trembling, tried one last plea. Please, Chief, we can settle this privately. I was only doing what's best for the neighborhood. I stepped closer, meeting her frantic eyes with steady calm. No, Karen. What's best for the neighborhood is making sure no child ever gets treated the way you treated my daughter. You wanted to play enforcer. Now, you'll see what real enforcement looks like. Her mouth opened to respond, but no words came. She was ushered into the back seat of the squad car, her dog still yapping helplessly on the curb. As the car pulled away, the bus driver gave me a subtle nod, clearly impressed. Emily squeezed my hand, her eyes wide but full of relief. Daddy, she can't hurt me anymore, right? She whispered. I knelt down, so we were eye level, brushing a stray tear from her cheek. Not you, not anyone, I assured her. She crossed a line today, and now she's paying the price. Emily smiled faintly, and with that, she climbed aboard the bus. The children inside made space for her, some even patting the seat beside them in silent solidarity. As the bus drove off, the parents who remained at the stop finally approached, murmuring thanks and shaking their heads at the surreal scene. Justice had been served, not in some courtroom far away, but right here on the sidewalk, in front of the very community Karen once terrorized. And as I stood there, watching the bus disappear around the corner, one thing was certain. No one in that neighborhood would ever forget the morning the HOA president's arrogance met the badge of the police chief and lost.